in Florida as a kid, watching places where I just loved seagrass meadows and going to the Florida Keys, and even in water came up to my knees. There were fish, biggish kinds of fish, groupers and snappers and big parrotfish right there. And being advised, watch out for the sharks when you go diving in the water. There are man-eaters out there, and then realizing I don't have to worry about man-eaters. But realizing now when I go into the ocean, I worry when I don't see sharks, because they're among the creatures that have collapsed from where they were when I was a child to a small fraction.
I'm Adam Vaughan, Environment Editor for The Times. I'm here in Nice, in France, as you may have guessed from the Mediterranean behind me. I'm here, like many others, for a really important meeting. It's the UN Ocean Summit. World leaders have come from all over to discuss really urgent issues like bottom trawling, the High Seas Treaty, plastic pollution, and other matters that we all care about. I'm delighted today to be interviewing someone who cares about this more than most, the David Attenborough of the oceans, if you will, Sylvia Earle. Sylvia, we're speaking here in Nice, where the UN Ocean Conference is taking place. It's a gathering, I guess, in a way, full of people and projects that, to some extent, have been shaped by your work. If you'll forgive me for reminding you, I think you have a big birthday this year, your 90th. I'm delighted to be here with you to celebrate. I mean, let's go back to the beginning, I guess, in time for you, of growing up in New Jersey and Florida. Tell listeners about your sort of early experiences of the sea. Give people a sense of what got you into it, as it were.
We're looking at about 1950s. This is when, as a young would-be scientist, I first put on a face mask and fins and used scuba and experienced that shock of being able to breathe underwater and to see fish up close and personal. And the other shock of thinking that I'm going to go look at the fish, and then I found the fish coming to look at me.
The curiosity.
They're really curious. The same with all the creatures in the sea that have eyes and can move, like whales. And turtles, even turtles will go out of their way to say, what's a primate doing down here? But
so was it quite transformative that first time your first experience with scuba? I guess it must have been quite.
Well, the ocean got my attention when I was about 3 years old. I got knocked over by a wave. But what really caught my imagination, even as a child, was the extraordinary diversity of life in the sea. Creatures that have no counterpart on the land, like starfish. That whole category of echinoderms, starfish, sand dollars, sea urchins, all that. It's a whole big wedge of life that is unique to the sea. And there are a lot of categories of animals that you only find in the sea. You find essentially representatives of all of the categories of animals. There are 30, maybe 35, depending on how you slice up, and as we categorize the animals, they're all in the ocean. Only about half occur on all of the land from pole to pole. In a place I can embrace with my arms in the sea, I can find sometimes 14 or 15 of these categories. And that's about as many as occur on the land. So just by understanding that the ocean is where the diversity of life and the abundance of life, think about it, it's more than 90%, some say as much as 97% of the biosphere where life exists. It's in the blue part.
Sylvia, you were just talking about the sort of incredible abundance and diversity of species in the sea. That was one of the. How did that sort of translate into your interest in, when you think of the abundance and diversity you described, how did that sort of influence your decision to say, okay, this is going to be my field, my career? When did it sort of switch from maybe a personal interest to a sort of more professional interest?
I don't recall ever having a aha moment. It was just never a conscious choice. It was just one thing after another. Spending my early childhood on a small farm in New Jersey with parents who, we had a big garden, we grew things, most of what we ate we grew, and my mother had a sensitivity, an empathy for all life, including kids. I was a beneficiary. My two brothers, one older, one younger, were similarly affected by the affection that both parents gave us. I never felt as a child that I could do anything so bad that they would not be there for me. They were always there. It's okay, dear. There's always tomorrow.
It's a lovely feeling to have that security.
Yeah, and maybe underpinned my willingness to just do things that others thought they couldn't do. I mean, it was like, why not try?
You had the freedom to do that.
Yeah, and freedom to roam.
I mean, and so that's obviously that sort of upbringing, an amazing sort of foundation for it to, as you say, have the confidence to do that. I'm guessing, speaking here as a sort of man in the 21st century, that as a woman at that point in time, in a field, a field of science that was probably quite male dominated, I imagine it wasn't always easy.
I never really thought about it much.
Really?
I had brothers who could climb trees. I could climb trees. They run fast. I could run fast. I think I had the freedom to not have to prove myself. Guys somehow, they had to be the best. I could just be me.
And you found that when you went into work as well?
I just did as much as I could to learn as much as I could. I'm still that way. There's so much to discover. And I just soak it up. Kids do anyway. But scientists, generally speaking, are like kids who never grow up. They always want to keep asking questions. And when you find that you've been wrong about something, that's cause for celebration, because the real joy is finding out is more and more about what actually is. Call it truth, if you will. But you pose a theory and you work hard to see if it really matches reality, and you find somebody else has found that, no, you're wrong. And instead of saying, no, I'm right, and try to defend something that you know is not right, you say, thank you for helping me understand. I mean,
I love that about scientists. I love the openness of it. You talked about the curiosity of certain marine life. I think that's obviously the great thing that drives a lot of conservationists and scientists. And fast forwarding a little bit to, I think it was 1970, you led this first all-female aquanaut team during the Tektite 2 project. Tell people about that project, because they might not have heard about it. They might have heard loosely about it, but tell people about what you set out to achieve and what were some of the challenges you faced.
Well, there are two significant turning points, breakthroughs, whatever, that weren't planned by me, but it just happened. Before the Tektite project in 1964, I was invited to be, as a scientist, not yet with my PhD, but to go on an expedition to the Indian Ocean. I'd never been west of the Mississippi River in my country. And this expedition was to go to the Indian Ocean, and only after everything had been sort of signed, sealed, and I was on my packing my clothes to go, But it was noticed that I would be the only woman with 70 men aboard this research vessel for 6 weeks at sea. And I thought, okay, I'm a scientist, they're scientists and crew. We got to Mombasa and were interviewed. I'm being interviewed now. That there were 12 scientists, and we poured our hearts out with what we were trying to achieve. But they put as a headline the next day in Mombasa Daily Times, Sylvia sails away with 70 men, but she expects no problems. It was my first encounter with the press. And I was trying to be a scientist, but all they wanted to talk about was, there was a girl with 70 men. Anyway, we got through that fine, but then came Tektite. And I was at Harvard, and the notice on the bulletin board inviting scientists to apply to use this new capability to live underwater, like a space station under the sea, before there was a space station up in the sky. And it was an open invitation to the science community globally to write a proposal, and if it was acceptable, pass muster with a review committee at the Smithsonian Institution, you might become an aquanaut at the time that there were astronauts up in the sky. And my proposal was submitted along with 4 other men who were colleagues, and they were fish experts. I was the seaweed expert. We put together a proposal that was collaborative, but when the proposal came to the review committee in Washington, not the science committee, they said, good project, but the idea of having men and women living underwater, it was not acceptable in 1970. I mean, it just wasn't. And it came to the head of the program to decide, James Miller, should there or should there not be women involved living underwater with men? Perish the thought. So they decided, again, Miller, and he had daughters, and he said, well, half the fish are female. I guess we could put up with a few women. But they wouldn't let us live with men. So they created the women's team. I was asked to be the leader of the team, which, again, talk about transformative moments. That as a scientist, I lived in a culture where you did not engage the public. You were considered a popularizer if you wrote anything for the general public. It's this ivory tower approach that you lose credibility when you, as I thought at the time, I was asked by National Geographic to write about the experiences. My first reaction as a would-be scientist, I can't do that because but even though National Geographic was my window on the world as a kid, before television there was National Geographic. I just inhaled every copy that came in as a kid. And here I was feeling kind of uppity as a scientist. I can't write for... Anyway, I got over it. As luck would have it, there was a book by Thomas Huxley, who 100 years before had experienced a similar kind of concern about writing for the public, but he published this little book called On a Piece of Chalk, where he described the White Cliffs of Dover chalk to a group of carpenters at a meeting in Norwich, where he described the history of the North Atlantic Ocean written in the chalk taken from the White Cliffs of Dover. Same kind of chalk that the carpenters carried around to mark a line before they hammered nails or used a saw. But he related his science to this group of people who had not thought about what is that ocean out there. And he opened my eyes. And apparently he had this genius for communicating things that he cared about to the wider public. And he said in the introduction to that book, your fellow scientists will criticize you, but you must do it. You must give back.
That's something you've taken to heart, right?
Stabbed me in the heart. It was just pure luck. It was on my shelf. I just hadn't related it to me personally, and until that moment. So I said yes to National Geographic, and I've been saying, please, National Geographic, will you let me write for you again?
That's a great kind of North Star to be guided by, and I can totally understand what you're saying about having
somebody, anyway.
No, I can totally understand him having worked in science journalism, what you're saying about how your peers would see you and how you worried about that. And yeah, I'm glad you did take the plunge though. Can I take you forward a little bit in time, Sylvia? I think it was in 1979. One of your achievements was setting the untethered diving record. You went 381 meters, which feels an awful long way down beneath the Pacific Ocean. Why did you want to do that one? What was the driving reason for that?
Well, certainly was not a desire to be first. The thing about being, even right now, it's pretty easy to be first in a lot of things because we're we're at the edge of the greatest era of exploration ever. Technology has given us opportunities to go where we could not go before, high in the sky, deep in the sea, using technologies that scientists discovering by using satellites, ancient civilizations, by seeing from above what you cannot see when you're on the ground. You just don't have that perspective. And the perspective that is now possible on the microbial world that drives the rest of the world significantly, that we're just beginning to see new insights, pieces of the puzzle. We're a long way from looking at the full puzzle. Maybe we'll never get there, because one thing I found about discoveries is that you find something new, and then you see all those other things beyond that you could not see until you unlock that little piece. And that's how it is going into the ocean. That we are now the beneficiaries of all those who have gone before, that have gotten us to this point of being able to open a lot of doors simultaneously and see what we could not see before. And the whole world, I said this is the new sweet spot in time, when the magnitude of what we now know informs us of the danger we are in, how much we have transformed the nature of nature in a very short period of time. I as a witness, David Attenborough as a witness, Jane Goodall as a witness to this remarkable time of exploration, of learning as never before. I think we've learned more about the ocean in my lifetime than all previous history, human history put together. At the same time, we, even people who, kids, 10 years, the rate of change is happening so rapidly that it's like a race. Can we learn fast enough to deal with the changes that we are imposing through our actions, the planet getting warmer, faster, on a geological change in the space of one lifetime? So the good news is being able to see it, calculate it, measure it, and anticipate where we're going with just enough time, if we take to heart what we now know, to take the actions that we need, that we know we can do, before we bring about the collapse of things that we really care about, like a planet that works in our favor.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. I really like that sweet spot phrase you use to describe that sort of knowing more than we've ever done, and at the time of such great change. I mean, I think, obviously more recently, talking of sweet spots, more recently, in 2009, you founded Mission Blue. Tell people about the sort of vision behind that and its mission to create this global network of marine protected areas, which is obviously being discussed here in Nice. At the time, we're 16 years on from that, and the marine protected areas are in the news now. Going back then, why did you think there was a need for it? It feels like you were a bit ahead of the curve.
I became a champion early in my life of national parks, protected areas, because I could see the loss of places that I knew and loved, both on the land and the sea, converted, called developed, to human purposes. And in Florida, as a kid, watching places where I just loved seagrass meadows, and going to the Florida Keys, and even in water came up to my knees, there were fish, biggish kinds of fish, groupers and snappers and big parrotfish right there. And being advised, watch out for the sharks when you go diving in the water. There are man-eaters out there, and then realizing I don't have to worry about man-eaters. But realizing now when I go into the ocean, I worry when I don't see sharks, because they're among the creatures that have collapsed from where they were when I was a child to a small fraction.
It's one of the most threatened groups of species in the ocean, isn't it? The sharks, yeah.
Well, they're so critical. They've been around for 400 million years, long before there were humans, among the categories of creatures that have shaped planetary chemistry to create a planet that works in our favor. And it's only because of us marketing the idea that you can eat sharks, you can have shark fin soup that will do wonderful things for you, all not understanding that we need sharks. We, personally, we don't, even if you've never seen a shark, if you've never been in the water with a shark, to understand that they are critical elements in the ocean ecosystems that keep us alive. We're sea creatures. We need the ocean. Even if you've never seen or touched the ocean touches you with every breath you take, with every drop of water you drink. It's the ocean that makes Earth habitable. But it's not just rocks and water. It is life. And these systems that have evolved over hundreds of millions, literally billions of years. And we have looked at, not consciously, but in decades, my lifetime, your lifetime, anyone who's listening, your lifetime, you have experienced this unprecedented change, which is taking us through our actions, take our decisions to convert so much of nature for human purposes that nature is about to consume us, convert us into what? Stardust.
And I mean, obviously, you've had sort of many success stories with Mission Blue over the years, and you mentioned there, obviously there is declines in many senses in terms of indicators of the health of the ocean. But I think one thing I really like that is you have these kind of ideas of hope spots, and around, places where target conservation efforts have really made a difference. I wondered if you, sorry, go on.
So national parks, wildlife preserves, whatever, those in the 20th century who were beginning to feel as I did, we're losing nature. We have to be proactive and embrace these wild places before they're gone. We know how to kill. Oh, in the 20th century, we learned how to destroy on an unprecedented scale, 2 world wars, the ability to use technology to clear-cut forests in an afternoon. That our species before took a long time to clear a space to plant whatever we wanted to do to have food. But in the ocean, similarly, I was a witness to loss and the urgency of hurrying up, be proactive about protecting ocean space, just as we realized we had to protect landscapes, places, and species on the land. I witnessed a time when my uncle was a market hunter early in the 20th century. Before I was born, he made a living by killing wild birds by the truckload to take to market. That's how he made his living. But he could not do it as a middle-aged man because the birds were gone. And the little furry things he used to trap, where'd they go? He trapped them all. We were doing the same thing, I came to understand. Our ability to consume nature in the ocean by the ton. Mechanized killing of wildlife, and we're still doing it. We have been led to believe that the ocean is so big, so vast, that there's nothing we can do to harm the ocean. So we've used it as this massive dump site. And we've used it as a massive grocery store. I mean, it's stunning when you think about it. Most people don't think about it. I think about it all the time because I've witnessed the abundance to scarcity. The reason I went and accepted the invitation to be the chief scientist of NOAA, confirmed by the Senate, but it was a fishing industry and those who were concerned about the desire to keep killing whales. It was, is she the right person? I mean, I had to, in the end, defend the concept of, I've tried to be fair to the fishermen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. First, and I hate to bring your gender back into it, but you were the first female chief scientist of NOAA as well. I think that's right, isn't it?
Again, I tried to be the best I could be as a scientist.
Yeah.
And I think having come along at the point where women were being allowed at the table, someday maybe fish will be allowed to be at the table instead of on the table.
I love that. I love that. Have you just come up with that? Have you said that before? I'll take that. Look, I wanted to ask, Sylvia, your connection with Rolex goes back to, I think, 1982. You became
it goes back before 82.
Goes back before? Okay, all right.
It was when I first lived underwater.
Okay.
With a tech-type program. Rolex gave to the women's team a beautiful lady Datejust that don't look as though you should be able to take them underwater. People don't, it's a beautiful timepiece, but it's also an instrument that we used.
Rolex have also supported your organisation Mission Blue since 2014. I wondered how their Perpetual Planet Initiative has helped shape your mission.
Rolex has championed the concept of marine protected areas through Mission Blue, the organization that I started out of a sense of urgency to try to bring together people, communities, institutions to do for the ocean what has been done with some success with protected areas on the land, and to energize the concept of reaching a goal of at least 30% of land and sea by 2030. That's 5 years from now. Well, let's see, we don't have a lot of time. But the gift of time underwater has given me this perspective, a knowledge, awareness, sense of urgency, that by sharing the view and getting people around the world to share what they know, we now have a network of 166 places globally with champions, with communities, places. We work with technology that enables you to input data. Who lives in this area? What are the conditions that they have, temperature, salinity, anything we can find out, and have some milestones in time, gather information from the past, put it in a place so that people can go out, kids can go out and make observations that go into this database in a network that creates a network of information, a network of hope, and now it's a network leading to action around the world.
talking of action, you mentioned the 30 by 30 target, which was agreed by most of the world's governments about 3 years ago. I think, you know, the target there is obviously 30% of the ocean protected by 2030. I think we're on about 8%, depending on whose methodology you use at the moment.
Right.
I mean, what's holding us back? What's holding us back from getting there?
What's holding us back from doing what should be obvious to us? The world is in the natural systems that underpin everything we care about, our economy, our health, our security, but most fundamentally, our existence. That we humans are a part of all of life that relies on the living ocean. The ocean governs climate, weather, the habitability of Earth, the chemistry of the planet. It's taken a very long time to get to the place that we now find is favorable to us. It's taken us a very short time to unravel these ancient systems, and we are on a course right now to continue depleting the ocean, of consuming the land, the water, the wild creatures everywhere, to underpin wealth. It's time to turn it around, to take the wealth that we have gained from nature, to give back and secure, not just for nature, but by so doing, secure a future for ourselves. What is the sustainable take of whales, seals, penguins, krill, deep sea fish that may be 100 years old for a 20-minute meal? Come on. The sustainable use is approximately 0. There is no indigenous population, unless you count the whales and seals and krill, in the waters around Antarctica. Why not just make the waters around Antarctica a zone of peace? Why not make all of the global commons beyond national jurisdiction, the high seas, a zone of peace? Why are we killing on a massive scale life in the high seas, even in 2025?
I realised, you know, the way you were talking about how we're more aware than ever about this rapid rate of change. I wondered how you thought, you know, you're first and foremost, you are a scientist, right? And I wondered, how has oceanography, what's been the big change over your lifetime? What's the big change that you've seen in the field?
I mean, when I think how much was not known, not only when I was a child, but when I was an earnest young scientist, the continents were not known, or there was a suspicion by looking at the map of the world that the continents kind of fit together like a big puzzle, but nobody could figure out how it could possibly have happened. But I was a witness to the discoveries in the late 1970s of the hydrothermal vents, of a mechanism that could answer the question, how could this have happened? That was one of the big breakthroughs in terms of understanding the microbial world, that we exist because microbes exist within us and within the ocean. As in the 1950s, it was thought that microbes, bacteria, didn't even know about this kingdom of life called the archaea, did not know how viruses, fungi, the bacteria and the archaea, we still don't know. All we know is that some of the big pieces are there. It is left to those coming along right now, assuming we can keep the planet secure. Highest priority, protect the systems that are holding the world together in our favor, and do everything we can to patch up and restore and put back what we've lost. Plant trees. This trillion tree project is worthy as long as we choose the right trees in the right places at the right time to try to restore what we've lost, one species consuming the earth in a scale, a time scale that is breathtaking. Can we use what we know and the technology that we have created to, on a breathtaking scale, in the next 5 years, take the action that is needed to stop the killing and really normalize caring. Right now we have made it normal to kill. We celebrate killing. We reward destruction on a massive scale. We say we have developed a marsh when we turn it from something productive and natural, part of our life support system, into a parking lot, into a place where we can use it. We don't think that we're using nature when we breathe. We don't understand that we need nature. Now, nature needs us.
I feel like normalized caring is a mantra to live by. I love that.
We've normalized killing.
Yeah. Sylvia, just to finish, I think you've become this sort of, whether you intended to or not, you've become this mentor figure in ocean conservation. I wondered, I have 2 teenage daughters. What's your message for the next generation of conservationists?
Well, first, don't let anybody steal your dream. There are lots of reasons that people will tell you, whoever you are, that you're too tall, you're too short, you speak the wrong language, you're the wrong gender, you don't fit for whatever reason. Don't let them discourage you. If you have something, and you should have something that you want to do because you're you, and cherish who you are, what makes you you. I do not have a voice capable of singing opera, but those who do, I talked to a young man who had to overcome obstacles because he wanted to sing opera, and he was a boy. And he hid his great voice. It took him some time to find his place. His parents wanted him to play football. He didn't want to play football. He wanted to sing. Ultimately, he broke through, but it took courage to be what he wanted to be, taking who he was with the talent he had. Everybody has something that sets whoever they are, whoever you are. Every human being is unique. Like every cat, every dog, every horse, every fish, every little krill, every lobster, every jellyfish. There are no two exactly alike. It's such a big thought. We look at a school of fish and think they're all alike. No, they would, if you could ask them, look at humans, oh, they all look alike, but we're not all alike. It's that diversity that gives strength to a planet that is unique in the universe. It's resilient because of the diversity. All the voices with different qualities, all the talents among humans that have a particular twist that can do math, that have the ability to use words to make poetry, to create great art, or art of any form that tells a story, that we should cherish and celebrate our differences, because together it makes us strong.
Right now, the world.
So get with it, kids. Whether you're a girl or a boy or whatever age, get with it. Grown-ups who think it's over for whatever reason. No, life is a miracle. I mean, think of the odds that you exist at all in a universe where Earth is unique. You're unique. We're unique. This time is unique. Let's savor it. What are you going to do with the time you've got?
I think that's a great note to end in. Thank you so much, Sylvia.